the Knicks will beat the Ops. And these Ops are heated rivals. The Pacers, the Heat, or the Sixers, maybe even two of those three teams in particular. We're talking about the Ops, okay? The teams that we hate the most, right? Our heated rivals, our dislikable rivals. We're going to beat those three teams, at least one of them, in a playoff series. I think maybe even two, especially depending on how the East shakes out. That's just how I feel. I know you guys probably are going to have the same sentiments. We owe Indiana, especially after what they, did to us last year. How I'll start this is, I'm going to jump into research mode. And how I start this is by saying this. In the Eastern Conference, we have a lot of potential, right? In the Eastern Conference. But let's keep it real. We honestly will believe that there are 8 teams contending for a spot. Let me see if I can pull the standings up right quick. Because basically what happened last year in the standings, I think it's going to be the same thing, very similar. But I do think there might be a little bit of changes, right? So right now, the top 4, I don't have it the same, as you guys can see on the screen. Boston number 1, Knicks number 2. I'm riding with that. Then I got the Sixers as number 3. So instead of the Sixers being the 7th seed like they was last year, and we saw them in the first round, I'm going to bring the Sixers up to the 3rd seed, and I'm going to slide Milwaukee down to the 4th seed. Then I got between Cleveland and Orlando for that 5th seed. Maybe even Indiana might could slide in there. I kind of like how Indiana looks, and then I had to really think about it. I didn't get a chance to really do a NBA breakdown, really looking at the teams and really doing a deep dive on the standings. But I kind of like what Indiana has, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finish at number 5. But right now, let's just keep it. I got the Magic and Cavs battling for the 5th and 6th spots. Then I got the Pacers, and then I got the Heat. So those 8 teams, to me, right, how I feel the East playoffs picture is going to look. Now, it can change, right? It could be some fluctuations. I think the top 4 is safe unless Indiana does something crazy. Cleveland, I got to see it because I feel like there's some discrepancies within their offense with the 2 ball-dominant guards. I got to see how they look. And then Evan Mobley, to be honest, Evan Mobley should be the second option on that team. After what I saw in the playoffs last year, I don't think they're going to use him, and I don't like him and Allen. So the Cavs got to work on a lot of things before I even think about them and as a lock to even get into the top 4 or even to be the 5th seed. That's why I got it as a toss-up between the Magics. But the Pacers could very well jump up too, depending on how those guys look. I do like Benedict Mathurin too coming back. So that's just how I see the East. So let's say Magic and Cavs, they at the 5-6. Pacers, 7th seed Pacers. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks and the Pacers battle it out in the first round. Now, you got to understand something, y'all. We owe this team, right? They lead the playoff series now. It was tied 4-4. Now they're up 5-4 with last year's win. And remember, they also won the series before that, which was the Melo and Tyson Chandler that year when the Knicks went in there with a hobbled Amari Stoudemire. They had Paul George, David West, very big lineup, Roy Hibbert, and they beat us then too. So we owe Indiana, and I think that based on some of the other expectations that we had, that we felt for this team, if this team is hitting all cylinders, right? We're top in all-NBA defense efficiency. We have the 2 NBA all-NBA defenders, and we go into the playoffs a little healthy, or definitely healthy. I don't foresee us being that banged up again. Yeah, you might have 1 or 2 guys out because it's a rough 82-game season. But in that first round matchup against the Pacers, and I'm just saying optimistic fan because right now we don't know what's going to happen realistically. This is just a prediction. I'm going to say the Pacers are healthy, Knicks are healthy. So going into the matchup, Pacers healthy, Knicks are healthy. I'm giving the Knicks the edge. Why? I feel like Mitchell Robinson will do a better job than that other guy that went to OKC. I'm trying not to say his name, on Turner. Because remember, Turner was putting in a lot of work. I think the defense on Turner will be a lot better. Also, I'm curious to see how, and I know a lot of you guys wasn't feeling this, the small ball lineup will look against that team, right? Where Randall goes to the 5. But I'm going to put, because remember, they're picking and popping. Turner does roll, but then if they roll, we could sort of kind of blitz it a little bit and the rotation on the perimeter if the ball swings. But I'm really worried about that pick and pop because Miles Turner was killing us on the pick and pop. And I think that if you try OG Anunoby, just mixing it up, doing some creative things on the defensive end to sort of shift them. But I think if we're healthy and they're healthy, I think we have the better squad. And Knicks will be champs. Knicks on the collision course with the Sixers. So you have, you got Knicks number 1. Okay, if you have Knicks at number 1, that changes everything. But that's how I see the Pacers series going. So, but here's another thing too. So to follow up on what Knicks will be champs is saying, if you have the Knicks as the number 1 seed, that means, right, that the Heat will be more than likely, as I got it, and it has Knicks will be champs has it. I'm pretty sure, even though I don't see 7 and 8, but I think that the Heat would be the first round matchup, and we owe them. You already know the story with them. They beat us as an 8th seed, little payback because we beat them as an 8th seed, but they also beat us in the Melo years too. I believe it was in the first round during the Melo years. They beat us, and I think that was the year when Amari Stoudemire pretty much broke his hand on the fire extinguisher. These moments are just crazy. As Knicks fans, we had to go through it, but we owe them. And I think that once again, and I think the difference too with Miami, I think on our side, you might not have a Mitchell, you might not have an OG Anunoby. Very possible, right? We don't want it to happen, but we know it's very possible. Those are our 2 guys that kind of get hurt. I may talk a little bit more about that in future predictions. But the Heat, it's hard for me to say that if they were healthy when they're never healthy. The Heat is never healthy in the postseason, right? We seen Hero was out when they played against us, and then Jimmy also tweaked his ankle. But then last year, Jimmy was out, right? And then remember, the years before that, they had key injuries. And some people use that as an excuse, especially against Boston, why Boston was able to go to the finals that first time Boston went to the finals with Tatum and Brown. So those guys are always getting hurt. I don't know if I can even bank on them. There seems to be a little underlying tension there with Jimmy Butler, his extension. If he doesn't perform, will they trade him? That could be possible too, right? Maybe this Miami Heat team doesn't look the same. I think there's a lot of uncertainty, though I do like Khalil Ware, their draft pick. But at the same time, I think that the Miami Heat is just too much going on with them. And I don't really foresee them being a factor for us, right? Now, the Sixers are a team that wants revenge against us, okay? We beat them. We took over their building, right? We had Knicks fans literally storm the Wells Fargo Center and cheer, let's go Knicks, and MVPs and all these things. We basically little bro'd them. Of course, they're going to say Joel Embiid was hurt. But once again, you can't use injuries as an excuse with us because we were missing Randall. Mitch got banged up that series. We definitely was not 100% healthy at all. So we got to throw the injuries out. Now, granted, I would love to say health. If both teams are healthy, how the series would be. I think it would be a really good series. But the Sixers have a lot of guys that get banged up, that get hurt, right? So I'm not really sure if I could even put that on the Sixers because I don't think they're going to be healthy. I just don't see it. Paul George have struggled with injuries. Of course, we know Joel Embiid struggled with injuries. They do got a nice, interesting cast of guys, right? With the Martins, both Martins, even Kenya Martin's his son. He's working on his game, looking to get better. They did get the kid from France, the Yabusele, but we know we ain't scared of no guy who barely made it in the NBA, didn't even make it in the NBA his first time around. This is his second time around in the league. Besides that guy, they don't really have power forwards. I think they got Drummond and Embiid. I'm not sure if they got another center on their depth chart. So any injuries to bigs, that team is really going to be in for it. Now, they do got a plethora of guards and wings, especially point guards. We know they got Maxey. We know they got Kyle Lowry. But Reggie Jackson, I think, is going to get a lot of time. So you're going to see a lot of these guys. Like, for example, like if they want to play Reggie Jackson, Kyle Lowry, and Eric Gordon, that's 3 guards they're going to be playing. I mean, they're a very small team. They talk about the Knicks being a small team. I think that their best players are like their point guards. I like Kelly Oubre. I think Kelly Oubre's tough. But both Martins to me will be out of positions, especially if they're playing the four. And then they got Paul George, who is definitely a Hall of Fame caliber talent. But like I said, his health is a question, and he's getting older. And then those guys got to fit together, even though I do think it'll be a solid fit. That's why I got them as a third seed, because I think Paul George, when you have a big guy and you got shooters around him and then a point guard and a big guy, especially them running the pick and rolls and action off pick and rolls, whether it's a pop, right? Embiid operating on the nail, their offense is going to be pretty. Well, I don't know how it's going to be until it happens, but I think that their offense will flow nicely. I just think that the size is going to be an issue. And I think that, yes, they have Joel Embiid. We know that he dropped like damn near 50 points, if not 50 points, with a hobbled leg against us in the first round last year. But I do think Julius Randle is going to be a X factor. I think that they're going to struggle with that matchup, and we could really take advantage of it. And then eventually they're going to have to blitz Jalen Brunson, because we know Kelly Oubre more than likely will get the assignment guarding Jalen Brunson, but no one man is going to be able to guard Jalen Brunson. And eventually they're going to have to help. And when they help, that's when they're going to get killed. That's when that ball is going to move. And that's when some of you guys are going to see the point guard skills from Jalen Brunson.